Is Gen AI writing the future? I hope not. I don't want to support AI writing, but it's undeniable that some people are using it to write. There are the scammers who make their books look as similar as possible to popular books in order to trick people into buying their dupe instead. There are the spammers who try to pump out as many books or chapters, if it's a web novel, as possible in order to get rich quick. Then there's the grifters who may have started out as spammers, like that one lady who claimed she used AI to write 200 plus books in a year and made 6 figures. And now she has a course to help others do the same. There are the gotcha people, basically trolls who love to rage bait, hiding they're using AI to write until they get enough people who don't like AI to say they like the story and they gotcha them. There are also people who use it because English isn't their first language. There are people who want to write but have no confidence, so they rely on AI writing instead. There are people who have a story idea they want to tell but don't really care about writing. Then there are the people who only use AI writing for one scene or for dialogue or for one character's POV. It's a range, but everything else is written by them. And then there's the people who want to write faster because writing faster is rewarded. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the main benefit of using AI to write seems to be efficiency, especially if your goal is to make a profit. There is a reason why when you publish a web novel, it's recommended you post a chapter every day for at least the first 20K words. There is a reason why Iron Flame was rushed out the same year as Fourth Wing, despite it clearly needing more editing. A reason why some authors publish 4+ books a year, why there are so many writing advice books on how to write a draft in 30 or 90 days. Why having a backlog of book or chapters if you're publishing a web novel is so important. Fast writing is rewarded, and AI, it can help you write fast, faster than humanly possible, by having the AI write the draft and the person edit and rewrite. Not to mention, one of the hardest parts of writing, at least in my experience as a noob, is learning how to translate your thoughts into words. Apparently AI can help with that. And if you struggle starting, it can help with that too. I wouldn't personally advise using it this way if you actually want to write. These are skills every writer needs to learn. But as much as I hate to admit this, it's not unreasonable that some people do use Gen AI to write. Doesn't mean I have to like it or support it though. Hi, I'm Mo. I'm currently writing a web novel as a hobby. I understand that AI can be useful. I use it myself. I also have 2 brothers who love AI and will not stop telling me about how useful it is. But I also believe that most of the time it's not necessary to use, especially when it comes to things like writing. To be clear, I have no issue with Gen AI being used as a tool. I just don't see using it to write for you as using it as a tool. I talked to my second brother about this, and he said it was similar to being a director or producer, which did make me feel better. But the issue is the foundation is still AI writing, and AI writing is what I have a problem with. But that's not what this video is about. What I view as using AI as a tool is to help with brainstorming, researching, editing, name generating, prompts, etc., not the actual writing. I've never used an LLM to write, but I have experimented with using it to brainstorm, research. Heck, I've used Grammarly. Personally, I found that the more I learned about Gen AI and LLMs, the more I didn't want them touching my writing, so I no longer use it as even a tool, though I might in the future be open for using it to help with research again, maybe. I've talked about this in previous videos, but I do have a lot of concerns around using LLMs, and I like to keep my usage scarce. Having to explain and clarify and answer questions to get an LLM to where it needs to be the most helpful is just not something I want to do. I find it very tedious, but also I don't like writing prompts, and I really like making things harder for myself, so this might just be an issue with my personality type. I do have a slight worry that even using it to brainstorm can lead to homogeny and cripple my creativity. I admit that. And when I did try using it for feedback, I found that was a waste of time because I didn't trust anything it said, which again, feels like a me problem. I've also given up on using grammar checkers or using LLMs for editing advice. I tried, and I really don't like how they constantly suggest rephrasing my words, and I'm still figuring out my voice. I don't need to fight its voice at the same time. I'm good using whatever the default spell checker is. Sadly, I'm atrocious at spelling, so I do need it. But also, I do own a bunch of grammar books. Maybe it's time I actually read one. As for using an LLM for research, considering how well known it is that LLMs hallucinate, I can understand why some people would have a problem with that. Personally, I don't. I think when it comes to research, it doesn't matter what you use as long as you do your due diligence. I admit I do struggle with this, which is why I personally don't use LLMs for deep research. Too much risk of being led astray and doing unnecessary work. Better to find a book, website, or a video on the topic that's trustworthy instead. However, I do think LLMs are great at answering specific, simple questions. I mentioned this before, but in the past, I did use it to figure out how to address royalty in medieval times. I think for things like this, it's pretty convenient. For the current me, though, I'm good not using any of this. But again, I don't care if someone else is, as long as it's not doing the actual writing. I will say, I do feel murky on using AI to rewrite. I have done this twice, where I wrote a script and an essay, and because I was struggling, had an LLM rewrite it, then rewrote what it wrote. Thing is, when I compare rewriting what it wrote to when I rewrite what I write, it's night and day. When I rewrite my own writing, it can end up looking completely different. But when I rewrote what Gen AI rewrote, I just ended up rephrasing, not making any major changes. Has anyone else experienced this? Also, I found using an LLM this way worsened my self-confidence. It fed into the narrative I had that I'm a bad writer. And back then, a part of me did view AI writing as better, which only made me view my writing as worse. I've definitely become more confident in my writing after months of not letting it touch anything I wrote. So I'm not sure how I feel about AI being used this way, but I'm also not sure this is even something I should give any energy to worrying about. I've gotten to a place where if I accidentally read AI writing, it is what it is. When I notice, I quietly leave. It's not a big deal to me until I spend money on it. That's my line. So I really appreciate that books and web novels can now label themselves as AI generated or AI assisted. I don't know if this is a good long-term solution, but it's nice to have a choice. But whether someone discloses their AI writing usage is based on the honor system. And considering people and companies continue to not disclose when something is an ad despite that being illegal, it seems unrealistic to expect every person who uses AI writing to disclose that usage. Personally, it seems better to just disclose than to risk the backlash if caught. Plus, Barnes & Noble's CEO is on the record as saying he's okay with stocking AI-generated books as long as there is a demand. I made the mistake of lurking in the Writing with AI subreddit for a few months, and it changed how I view people who use AI to write. At first, when Reddit's algorithm started showing me posts, it was interesting to see all the different ways people use AI outside of writing. It was nice to see posts on how LLMs are getting dumber, how people are no longer using AI to write, but help in other ways. There was even a post where someone was looking at their old AI writing and were now noticing all the AI tells. But mostly this subreddit was full of posts on which LLMs write best and people's workflows using them. Those were pretty boring, but it was good to see that just because someone uses AI to write doesn't mean they didn't work hard, just in a different way. The posts and comments that eventually got to me were on not disclosing AI writing usage. So many go on about anti-AI witch hunts being the reason why they don't disclose, and I just don't buy it. Maybe it's because I'm someone who doesn't use a lot of social media, but is it really that bad? Are people really being constantly harassed when they say that they use AI? More so than normal on any social media platform, because people get harassed all the time. It's just part of being on the platform. It doesn't help there are so many comments where people are just bragging about not disclosing. It's so weird. And I realize that for some people, they do consider AI writing as writing themselves, or view others having an issue with AI writing as dumb or not valid. The final straw that led me to mute this subreddit were two posts on this topic. One went on about how sad it was to be accused of using AI to write just because they write well, only to reveal midway through they did in fact use AI to write. But that shouldn't matter. It's their idea, and English isn't their first language. I noticed this growing disdain in me that I didn't like. The other one was from someone who went over their AI workflow and claimed no one noticed they use AI. They make a bunch of money on Patreon because they write web novels. They even imply they also sell ebooks, but refuse to reveal any details so they don't face any backlash. Looking over their workflow, I admit my eyes glazed over, but it seems like they work very hard. And if what they said is true, it's not surprising they're finding success. And after reading this, I just felt so tired. I know not everyone is using AI to write. I'm not special, but it's easy to feel like everyone is, and they're just not disclosing it, which, considering everything happening in the world, I'm overly sensitive about. I had to remind myself that this is a subreddit specifically for people who write using AI, so of course it feels like everyone is using it. I'm just so tired of being paranoid and feeling like I'm being deceived, which might not be fair, but it is how I feel. There's plenty of reason for people not to use the AI-generated or AI-assisted labels. So for the people who are willing to use these labels, thank you. Your story may not be for me, but I wish you the best and hope you find your audience. After all, it's not like everyone has a problem with AI writing. Some people don't care, and some people even like it. There is an audience, which is why this is so frustrating. One caveat, you can't copyright Gen AI writing, but is that really a big deal? And sure, there is a whole discussion that can be had on whether it's ethical or not to hide AI writing usage or want it to be disclosed, but that's a conversation for another day. For me, AI writing bothers me, and I don't want to support it. So I've been thinking about what I can do. It's not always easy or obvious when undisclosed AI writing or AI covers are being used, not to mention what are traditional publishers' stance on Gen AI. To bring up Mia Ballard again, it seemed Hachette was fine publishing her book until the backlash. I also remember hearing 2 authors were disqualified from a writing competition because their publishers used AI-generated covers without telling them, maybe. I swear, I'm shocked Amazon hasn't already pulled a Spotify and pumped out AI books themselves. But the reason why I decided to protect myself isn't just because of AI. For some time now, there's definitely been a decline in quality for some works published by traditional publishers. Editing must be the go-to cut whenever they're trying to save money, because the amount of typos and errors some books have, they should be ashamed. Thankfully, majority of the stories I read are free fan translations of Don May web novels. At most, I have to deal with AI translations or edited machine translation. But because it's free, and this is the only way I'd ever get to read these stories, I tolerate it. However, I do buy a lot of licensed Danmei, and I am not okay with paying for AI translations, which is unfortunately something I need to be concerned about now. 7 Seas, one of the biggest Danmei publishers, got bought out by a company that uses AI translations, Via Lactea. I don't know if they're using AI to translate. They mentioned using it solely as a tool to improve efficiency and linguistic quality, but never as a replacement for human professionals. But their translation quality, even before AI, hasn't been great. It's been hit and miss. Thankfully, they haven't licensed anything I've wanted to read in a long time, so I don't really worry about them. Which reminds me, the new Danmei publisher, Hai Tang, I keep seeing reviews about issues with their proofreading, and there was a whole situation where they went after their translators. It was a mess, and it did not make me want to buy their books. Human translators aren't perfect. On occasion, they've made some strange choices that, even when explained, don't make sense. And I know for some people it doesn't bother them, but it bothers me. Like in the case of 7 Seas' translation for 300 Years of Longing and Little Mushroom, or how even after all this time, Viz continues to translate Zoro's name as Zolo. Sure, an argument can be made for why they keep Zolo in the manga, but why is it still Zolo in the novels? An easy way to avoid all this is to just not buy any books. But I love buying books. I love supporting authors. That's just not going to happen. So going forward, I will only buy books and series I've read and liked. In the case of licensed Danmei, at least if it does turn out to be AI translation, I'm still supporting a work I loved enough to buy. For nonfiction, as long as it's an author I trust, like Mark Brackett and Stephen Guise, and the book sounds interesting, I'll buy it. But I'll also try to read it before the return window closes, just in case. I own way too many writing books I haven't read. It hurt, but I won't buy any more. The only exception I'm making is for Timothy Hickson. I love his On Writing and World Building series, and I trust him. For books I'm unsure whether I'll like or can trust, I've created a list in my Notes app, and if I ever feel like reading them, I plan to check them out from the library. Unfortunately, some Danmei publishers aren't available at the library, but that's okay. There's always going to be exceptions. One of my favorite Danmei publishers is Rosemay, and I still trust them, so I'm more open to trying series I've never read if it's published by them. In the past, I did pre-order volume 1 of a bunch of series I've never read. One of them is Lord of Mysteries, a surprisingly chunky book. I had no idea what this story was about. I pre-ordered it mostly because I was intrigued by how popular it was. I finally started reading it July 7th, and so far I'm 200 pages in and I like it. So I bought the second volume. That's my plan. For all these series I'm unsure about, but own at least one volume of, I'm going to wait till I read the volume before buying the one after it. I canceled most of my pre-orders for titles I was interested in, but didn't know if I'd actually like. The only exceptions I've made are Penguin Volume 1. I really like the author's other work, and this sounds so much like something I'd like, I've decided to risk it. And A Certain Someone Volume 1. Same author, not as interested in the story, but I ordered it through Yiggy Bean using points, so I'm only paying $7 for shipping. Seems like a waste not to get it. I might make an exception for the Blue Dust trilogy, just because I've been planning to buy it since its license was announced, and all 3 volumes are supposed to be released at the same time. I'm on the fence. I also have a plan if I ever find myself so paranoid of AI writing that even checking it out as a library book is too much, that even reading free AI translations is no longer tolerable, and that is to read books that were published before 2022. Might be time to finally check out Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn series, Ursula K. Le Guin's Earthsea series, Gillian Flynn's Gone Girl. Ooh, Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. I've been meaning to read that one. I admit, I have been feeling nostalgic. Recently, I've been rereading and trying to finish Agatha Christie's Hercule Poirot series. I've been thinking of doing something similar with Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. J.B. Jones has come back after a 15-year or so hiatus, and I'm open to rereading her Baker Boy trilogy and finally finishing her Sword of Shadow series, but only after she finishes writing and publishing it, just in case. I was looking at books I read growing up. So many are out of print. Some don't even have an ebook version available, which sucks. They're just gone. But luckily, most do. I stopped reading ebooks around 2021, but lately I've been thinking of unearthing my Kindle and starting again. I own a lockbox now, so my issue of not being able to stop reading shouldn't be as big a problem anymore. I would love to revisit all the ebooks I own. I'm not sure I'll buy any new authors or new works by authors I read, but rereading I can see myself doing for sure. Which reminds me, if I do decide to buy ebooks again, I plan to make sure I only buy what I'm planning to read right away. That way I can return it if I don't like it or notice it's AI. I don't know about the future of AI writing. I'm hoping that as AI becomes more expensive, it will create more of a barrier to at least stop the AI spammers, or that at least platforms will do a better job trying to curb them and the scammers. It'd be great if we got some useful regulations and the economy improves to the point where less people are desperate to get rich quick. I don't know if I'll ever change my mind on not wanting to read AI writing. Sometimes I get overwhelmed with this sensation that this is futile and it would be so much easier to not have an issue with whether something is AI writing or not. But it bothers me too much. I have a lot of issues with AI, but the one I struggle with the most that's specific to writing, creating in general, is the fact LLMs were trained on piracy. So no matter how transformative the end result, the foundation is rotten. I recommend checking out this video. I think he does a better job articulating my issue. Okay, right before I recorded my voiceover, I see this video by Daniel Green about AI companies buying rare books in bulk that they're destroying to train AI. These companies make it so hard not to wish they didn't exist, you know? Originally, this video was going to be on my complicated thoughts on AI writing, but then I started working on the script and it just wasn't coming together. I also really wanted to post this video before August, so I ended up cutting out a lot and rushing a bit. Hopefully what's left makes sense. I am considering turning what I cut into shorts. Seems like a waste to just delete, but no guarantees. And so ends my final video in my Gen AI Tangent trilogy. In my first video, I went over my experience using LLMs. In my second, I go over my thoughts on current LLMs. Be sure to check them out if that sounds interesting. I'm really glad I took the time to work through my thoughts on Gen AI, and hopefully anyone watching these videos found value in them. Seriously, if you made it this far, maybe like the video. I am, however, really burnt out. I want to take a break and never talk about AI ever again. Just focus on writing. I'm happy to say that while writing was a struggle at first, and I still write very slowly, for a while now, I've been vibing and just really enjoying discovering where my story and characters are going. I don't even hate what I'm writing anymore. I just write. I actually signed up for a writing course that starts in August. I might do a video or short on the experience, whether it helped or not and why. So maybe subscribe if that sounds interesting. I'm also thinking about doing a video where I talk about how my story has changed from when I originally conceived it. I think that could be really fun. Now, since this technically is the last video in my AI Tangent trilogy, let's talk about Gen AI outside of writing one last time. since my last video, SpaceX's stock has been dropping like crazy. This seems bad, and it will be interesting to see what happens when early investors start selling their shares, which they will be eligible to do starting in August. I'm curious if what's happening to SpaceX will harm Anthropic and OpenAI's upcoming IPOs. I also wonder if OpenAI will actually IPO. I still believe what's going on currently with AI isn't sustainable. Unfortunately, the current administration, I live in America, is incompetent and greedy, so I'm not expecting them to step up and make the situation better. He is only in his second year in office. He still has 2 more years, and he has already done so much harm. Anyway, apparently data centers are trying to sell to private equity, which doesn't seem like a positive thing, but okay. China's also gaining so much AI hype momentum, it's crazy. I have no idea how Anthropic and co. plan to compete with China and local models when they're still losing so much money. I don't know how this will turn out, but hopefully the AI race will be over in 3 to 5 years, the latest, and we can figure out how to make AI sustainable and less harmful, and finally move on to something else. For anyone who watched my I tried LMMs, but I don't think they're for me video, I owe you an apology. Recently, I looked up an old ChatGPT chat and saw it was dated July 2023. So I didn't start using ChatGPT in late 2024, like I said. I misremembered, and I'm sorry. I also lied about being open to possibly using AI as a tutor.
You sit on a throne of lies.
Since my last video, I've continued taking a break from Google. I've started using the free version of Lumo AI, just occasionally when I have a question. Previously, I mentioned how I was investing 80% into VOO and 20% into VO. Well, I decided to also invest in VXUS and asked Lumo what percentage I should split between the 3. So far, for my usage, Lumo is enough. I'm sure there's more to talk about, but I think this is enough. Before I possibly disappear for a while, I want to thank my subscribers for indulging me in covering content you didn't subscribe to me for. I hope you know I appreciate you. Next video is definitely going to be on topic. Bye!